and welcome to Chair Chat. I am Joyce Doris Coleman, Chairwoman of the Memphis-Shelby County School Board. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of meeting and speaking with one of my good friends on the board member, Amber Huett Garcia.
Hi.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm great. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you with that smile that lights up a world.
We get to share a stage by ourselves
yes,
today.
we nobody but us today.
That's right.
Feels a little different,
Yeah.
but today we will talk about your role on the school board and your representation for District 8.
Yes.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You ready?
Ready to brag about 8.
I love it. I love it. Board Member Huett Garcia, can you start by sharing a bit about what inspired you to serve on the school board?
Yeah. So I grew up in a family where education wasn't something that we all had access to. So I'm a first generation college graduate. My parents had one high school diploma combined, and my mother's father never learned to read. And so I've seen the power of education and how that transforms families and opportunities. But most of my professional career has been in education. So I actually got my start working in the state of Illinois in the governor's office managing the education budget. So really learning how I managed $13 billion in funds. And worked for the state senate, ended up moving to Memphis to actually teach. So I taught in Memphis-Shelby County schools. So little Ross Road runners out there, shout out. And then worked for an education nonprofit for years, working in the mayor's office for education. And then I've worked at the State Department of Education. So that in combination of my love for public service, I really just thought, wow, I can use all of this experience to make decisions and give back to my community.
So you started when you were 5, right? Because you've done a lot in such a short time.
I've had a lot of great opportunities. That's for sure.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next question.
Yeah.
What board committee do you chair, and how have you adapted this leadership role?
Yeah. So the major one is the budget, audit, and finance. So we have a $2 billion budget.
Yes.
This is my second year co-chairing or sharing that leadership role. I think for me, it's actually learning what leadership looks like with my colleagues on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think just sharing about my background, I had all of this knowledge about how budgets work, and a lot of my conversations were not really getting at what my colleagues wanted to see last year. And I think one of the things that I did this year was conduct one-on-ones. I did budget surveys. We did word clouds. We have really making sure that all the perspectives were brought in, and communicating, making sure that we're communicating to the community how much of that budget is actually flexible. Because I think you hear that number, and I think part of the leadership of that committee is making sure that over $1 billion of that is in fixed costs. So there's nothing that we can do given our buildings and staff, responsibility to feed our children and transport them. And so what's left over, how do we make decisions based on what they're telling us and what the highest needs are?
You've done a great job of the surveys and reaching out to individual board. You've done you and your
yeah, shout out to Board Member Porter who's been co-chairing with me.
Yes, and what I'm enjoying about seeing you all work is that he's new and you're educating him on how this budget process works. But you're a pro at it.
Well, I'm trying. It does take.
What has been the most rewarding part of serving as a school board member so far? How long have you served?
I was elected in August of 2022, so this is my 3rd year on the board. I think the most rewarding part is really seeing kids thrive.
Yes.
Like, there's just nothing better. And I have a lot in sort of I call my alter ego. I do a lot of advocacy, and personal story is really important to me. So I think seeing the individual child, our individual teachers, and sharing that story, getting an opportunity to see that is this is the future of Memphis.
It is.
We are educating our future leadership, future workforce, future moms and dads, and it's cool to see how much they're accomplishing and really generationally how Memphis-Shelby County Schools is influencing who they become.
And that's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're
my
we're
baby
changing.
included.
Yeah.
So
she's such a sweetheart.
She's cute.
Yeah. And we're impacting generations.
That's right.
To impact generations.
That's right.
What I like to say.
Yep.
Okay. What are some of the most pressing needs or priorities you're hearing from the families and school leaders in your district?
So my district is East Memphis, and I'm one of 2 disconnected districts. So I have 2 in North Shelby County. So the needs in North Shelby County are a little bit different, but generally, particularly in my East Memphis sort of block or continuous neighborhood, is actually space in our buildings. So though that core East Memphis region has 8,500 seats and we have 8,700 kids. So most of our schools are at 100% or over. So the facilities comes up a lot. Like, what does growth look like? It's great that families are choosing Memphis-Shelby County schools. So, but how do you keep up with all of the needs when you're using every inch of your facility at all times? And then I think it is like getting particular services when, like, following, just helping navigate sometimes the system. And I have to shout out our board office, because I'm gonna shout out Yolanda, because we have a lot of great processes and things like that, but sometimes it can be overwhelming, particularly if you have multiple children, and making sure that they get that follow through. So I think that's been a great addition, of making sure that we have that tailored support for our families who have just a lot of navigating to do to advocate for their kids.
Yeah.
So.
And one thing about it, you don't say much, but when you do, it's worth hearing, because you're advocating, because like you said, you have the East Memphis.
Yeah.
And most people think that's self-sustaining over in that area.
We got a lot of need.
There are needs.
There's a lot of need, yeah.
And you advocate for those needs.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, I can say, like the Richland School.
Yeah, it's been.
I have grandbabies there.
It's tough.
And it's been tough making sure that they have what they need, because like you said, it's busted.
Yeah.
There's not room to really wiggle room, what I like to call it, to move them around, but just to know that they have a strong advocate for their area.
Yes, and we have great community who's always stepping in to help too. So really active, like particularly PTOs in the area at several schools. But I think there's need everywhere. Yeah. And I think a lot of the conversations we've had are how do we know where need is, what type of need there is, and getting it so that it's equitable to our in the highest need schools or student groups, and that's through strong data and conversations, but also just talking to families.
Talking to families. Just get out and talk to families sometimes.
Yep.
Okay, how do you balance the needs of your district with the broader goals of the MSCS as a whole?
I think it's like the equity conversation, right? Like, it's being honest about prioritization of that. Sometimes, we're in phase 2, for example, of our capital projects. We see some districts have twice as many projects planned, but we're looking at HVACs, right? We're talking about the highest need. Talking about a fire alarm, and it doesn't always look the same, but we talk about what's most critical. But I think the needs of my district are the same as goals, right? Or the same as the goals of our district. We want high quality instruction. We want great environments, not just the buildings, but the academic programming, the after school activities that we're able to offer.
The sporting activities, different things,
they're one and the same, so it really becomes a conversation of how do we bring in other people and allocate our resources in a way that everybody gets all their needs met.
Equity.
Equity, yeah.
We're not talking about equity. We're not talking about anything for our children.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's an opportunity though to continue to increase our partnerships, because sometimes we're compulsory, right? Families come to us every day.
Yeah.
And so many great nonprofits and other government entities want to support our students. And so how do we help them meet them where they're at, so that we're not the only ones investing?
That's
So,
powerful.
yeah.
That's powerful. What progress are you most proud of so far for District 8?
I swear it's like every day we're like statewide champions and something like it's like White Station Middle School just got second in state for chess and their science Olympiads. So they're state champions in two different arenas. We've had Kavon Middle School just placed for debate team.
Wow.
White Station High School just put on their second big production of Mamma Mia. And now have all this. We also just got new lighting too. I think it's just they're like, even in like the outside of academics, they're thriving in, you know, developing those skills of strategy and chess and debate and advocating for themselves, researching, right? So I think it's just they're excelling at everything that they engage in. And it's also just the ability to offer that to our students. So our schools do, I think White Station Elementary has like 50 after-school programs or something like that, like just what they're able to offer.
Yeah.
And just, you can't be what you can't see. So if you don't have the opportunity to experience those things,
that's
makes
it.
It's hard.
It's
so
hard,
our schools
yeah.
are doing an outstanding job.
Yeah, I know Richland has so many. My granddaughter is there, and they have so many after-school activities. I'm like, y'all do more in the afternoon than some people do all day.
So my daughter's in Barbara McKinney's school. She's in an optional program, but she's in yoga, gymnastics. She's in Code Crew, so they have a 10-week program now, and then does Girl Scouts too. So she has like a social calendar where I'm like, I'm ready to pick you up, and she's like, I have yoga till 5:30.
Yes. And that's one thing we can say about our school district. We cater to the needs and the wants of our children.
That's right.
It's not too many times that they can say, our school needs this.
Yeah.
Before or after school or during school programs, and we don't try to accommodate them.
Yeah, I think some of that is coming out in our facilities planning too, right? Not just looking at the infrastructure, but what we're offering. It is hard to have a debate team if you have 130 kids, right?
Right.
So how can we, when we talk about addressing our footprint, it's not just buildings, not just real estate, it is what we offer inside.
What we offer.
The number of educators we can have that are licensed and ready to teach. We're fully staffed, right? We do. It's not a secret that we need more educators to choose MSCS, and so some that's part of the planning.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not just concentrated strictly to Memphis. That's across the nation.
That's right.
We are very short on educators.
Yes.
In our entire world right now.
One of my best friends has a degree, an advanced degree in special education, has taught for 10 years, 15 years, has been an assistant principal, and they were like, what's the job market like? And I was like, we could have you a job at the end of the day. Would you like to come work for us? So we hear it all the time, right?
Yeah, we hear it all the time. Yeah. And one thing I can say, I think we're strong advocates for getting people, especially the right people, to come and work in our district.
Yeah, so. And I think a lot of the positions that we've had over the last few years has been a nice pipeline as well. So we see some of our teacher assistants who already know our kids and families going to school, getting that certification. We have that sort of grow your own.
Yeah.
The board has prioritized that in the budget. Getting our teachers who are in that 3-year period, making sure that they stay and that we give them the supports that they need.
Helping to pay for the practice tests
Yeah.
and different things
Yeah.
like that.
And those certifications have changed over time. I remember when I first taught, I think you had to get half right on the elementary exam, and they really did increase the bar for passing them. And some don't give me the calculus one.
No,
I will not I will
no.
not be taking a calculus practice
I
test.
will not either.
It's again just providing the supports that we need to not just get educators in, but keep them
Keep
here.
them in. That's the important part. Once we get them in, being able to keep them in.
That's right.
And like yesterday, you advocated for the $2,000 for our teachers.
Yes.
Those are the things that are making a difference to me for our people in Memphis-Shelby County schools.
Yeah. All of that it adds up to culture and climate, right?
It does.
And we think about the buildings we want to work in and the benefits that we want as professionals, or I want as a professional. Our teachers deserve that same. They
deserve the same.
Yep.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
You deserve to educate in a good building.
Yeah.
You deserve to have the top of what you need to educate. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. We stay on that all day because we enjoy talking about that. How do you stay connected with your constituents?
I think through PTOs is probably one of the strongest ways. Social media, making sure I update. But I will say, all of my principals in District A have my phone number, right? Teachers reach out. But it is making sure that I, come to board meetings and state my position, and not just through a vote, but, articulating what I'm thinking, right?
Yes.
So that connection, I can't tell you the number of constituents who have told me, I saw what your comments were on X, Y, and Z issue, and it resonated with them. And then the number of emails that we get.
Yeah, we get those.
So it is really that individual connection, but making sure that you're broadly sharing. I think through mostly social media, but spending a lot of time just one-on-one talking to individuals.
And they're all important. And we just hear them out. That's all they want a lot of times, somebody just to hear their side.
Yeah. And I go to as many school events as possible. I think being a working mama, I don't get to say yes to everything, but being in the schools too. So
but that matters.
Yep.
Yeah. As a board member, collaboration is key. How do you build relationships with your fellow board members and the district members, and I got one more, with our interim superintendent?
Okay. I think showing up authentically as yourself is the first step, right? It is showing up in a way that nobody ever doubts your intention. They may not agree with you, but they don't doubt your intentions
And your motives.
Right. So I think that is being authentically yourself. And then I think the key to any relationship, as you get to know them as a person, you trust them when you feel like you deeply know them, right? When we know things about each other, when we know what's going on in each other's lives, we give each other grace through tough moments by remembering the times that we've gone through. New jobs. I've worked in a lot of political settings, and sometimes there's a narrative that you have to cut through and continue to do the work. But I think just one-on-one, particularly when we get to go to conferences, or we get the times in our, I'm not calling not retreats, our day-long meetings, those perspectives come out, right? So just constantly pushing myself to understand the perspectives of my colleagues, I think has gone, and then just trying to get to know them socially. I said, I had coffee after the board meeting last night with another board member, right? It is just having that, just talking about our kids, talking about life, and that matters.
It really does.
Because it doesn't feel as personal when you do disagree, and we will at times, right?
Yeah.
And I think for interim Superintendent Richmond, and what I've said many times is my job as a board member is to support whoever's sitting in that seat, because his success is the success of our district.
Yes.
it is the future for our kids. We just continue to do the work, right?
Yeah.
And I would say he doesn't hesitate to pick up the phone, and has really heard when we've talked about an issue already, but making sure that he's getting my input when it is something impacting District 8, but also just generally the board.
Yeah.
And then I think that when I say I can tell, that's not the right way of phrasing it. I said, like, I think he, for me, is earnestly trying to do the planning and thinking through of what our teachers, our staff are saying about changes that need to be made. And I admire that, right? Like, it could be easy to sort of like, I'm going in and fixing things, and I know that planning is underway. So I'm excited to work with him on what his vision is, so we all agree on the mission and vision, but also set really concrete goals.
Yeah.
And so being confident that he's doing that work is going to set the board up for success and creating those goals. And then ultimately, our job is evaluating, right?
Yeah.
So you and I co-chair our evaluation committee.
We
so
do.
that is the job of the board, is to manage our budget, manage our superintendent towards goals, right? That is if we do nothing else, that is what we have to deliver.
And that's full time.
That's right.
Those are 2 full-time responsibilities.
Yeah. And it's all connected, right?
Yeah,
You're investing in the things that matter the most, to the things that you say you want to get done, and the progress you want to make. And I think for all of us, we just have to continue with a sense of possibility.
Yeah.
We can't get discouraged.
No.
And
the work is bigger than us.
Yeah, and it will continue whether we stay stuck or we keep leading. And so we got to choose to lead.
We got to choose to lead.
That's
I
right.
love it. Okay, now a last question, because
Okay.
I'm taking up your time. What are some lessons you've learned about educational leadership since becoming a board member?
Educational leadership.
That it's not always easy,
It's
right?
not always easy. That's right. It is. I think it's easy to get in the here's a problem, let's fix it mode. And what we hold other, I think, sort of professions to is say, who have concrete goals and KPIs and they're doing annual reports. That doesn't feel like, because we have so many needs and we want to meet the needs of our kids in district. I think the lesson is, like, we need just as much sort of investment in the long term. That, like, we can't get distracted, and we have to have the supports to make sure that things don't stop, but we have a crisp, clear goal in mind, and that we're always making decisions through that lens. And I think that's been hard with the amount of change that we've gone through, not only just in leadership, but as a community, right?
Right.
Like the history of MFCS over the last few years. And then you're like, obviously that's tough. If you always show up as who you are, and you don't have to apologize for it. You have to explain your perspective, but we are meant to all agree.
That's right.
Right? That is why we are representing different communities, different backgrounds and experiences, and that's okay. But how do you move forward when there are tough moments, right? And then I think just in education in general is, I think when it came in, I thought, oh, if we're all just really, really effective school board members, this will all change, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think my understanding of structural deficiencies, like both what we need to ask for from the state, but also the federal government. And I was getting into this last night, but I think our advocacy has to be bigger than Memphis.
Yeah.
Like we cannot be the only urban school district that is facing $1 billion of deferred maintenance,
We're
right?
not, right.
Like I had the thought last night of this is going to have to be a sort of New Deal investment of how we invested in our country, right? To if we believe in public schools and education in our country, we're gonna have to make this a national issue. Because there's never going to be enough wheel tax to fix our building. There's never going to be enough beverage. Those are all great,
but it's not enough.
But it's not. It is. So I think thinking bigger than ourselves and what our advocacy looks like. So is leading in your community, but what does it look like to push outward?
And I must tell you, you are a great advocate.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You are a great advocate for our students, for our district.
Thank you.
I've seen you and heard you at work advocating for the things that matter for our children.
Thank you very much. And likewise, I hear Ms. Coleman literally drove it herself. She showed up. And so just the attitude of, if not me, who?
Yeah.
And so sometimes you just do it to get it done.
That's what you have to do sometimes.
But I think we have an opportunity to model, and I've said this in other spaces, is that no one will advocate for you better than you.
Right.
And so if we model that as leaders, then our kids see that, our community sees that. It's really hard to get what you need in any arena. And so figuring out how to ask for it and have other people help you ask for it is really important.
Thank you. Well, I want to take this opportunity to say thank you. It has been such a pleasure just getting to know you. I mean, every time I think I know something about you, I learn more. And that's basically some of the things that this is about. You know, they see us sitting behind the desk, but do they really know us?
Yeah.
So the opportunity to get to know you, knowing that you started work when you were 7, and just how hard you go, not just for District 8, but for the district period, is really encouraging, and I thank you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you.
I appreciate it. It's been fun, and we'll keep talking.
We'll keep
chatting.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you. And I want to thank our viewers for watching today's episode of Chair Chat. Thank you.